Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to Alien Addict. I have no idea what happened to my voice then. It did go a little bit high. How are we all diddling on this fine, luxurious evening? We have Bill in the house who sent me an email. I think it was about a week and a bit ago now. And the email gave me, it gave me that little feeling that you get on your testicles, not testicles, sorry, on your arms. Your hair's just they yeah. What's the word I'm looking? Goose pimples. But without further ado, the man that gives me goose pimples, Bill. Welcome to the show. Not many men give me goose pimples, mate, but you did.
Well, happy to do so, I guess.
Yes. I'm going to make you a bit smaller.
Okay.
We see. There we go. We're in. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
All right.
Should I make you bigger? No. I like that. Because I like the space background. Are you still there, Bill?
Yeah, I'm here.
You paused for a second then. Yes, you sent me, you were so gracious with my dyslexia that you said, listen, I've got a story for you. It's extremely long. Would you like to hear it? And I'm like, yeah, mate, send it over. I've never had that before, but I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
So before we get into the nitty gritty of it, Bill, how long has this been going on for? How far does this go back?
This started in the 70s when I was a kid, until I was a teenager, and we moved from a smaller town in southern Arizona up to Phoenix, which is like the major metropolitan area here in the state. So it was a period of decade or so that it was going on.
So, and the first experience is that the UFO?
Yeah. Well, yes, it's the first experience with UFO type stuff was
Right.
the sighting that we had. So yeah.
Because I think I'd like to start with the UFO,
Okay.
just because I think that's what gave me the goose pimples.
Right.
I did no, maybe no, actually it wasn't. It was the other thing that gave me the goose pimples. But so
Okay.
what year was this sighting roughly?
It's around 70, 78, 79, somewhere around there, because I was probably about 7 or 8 years old when we had our sighting.
Okay, so it gives the story.
Okay. Well, we lived in a small southern town called Huachuca City, which is right next to a base, an army base in southern Arizona called Fort Huachuca. Um, and this, like I said, I was probably about 7 or 8. This was in the evening. My brother had come home late. He was with one of his friends, just like hanging out, whatever he was doing. He had come home later than he was supposed to. So when he got in the door, he was instantly in trouble with my mom. So my mom was in the process of, grounding him, telling him, "Hey, you came home late," that kind of thing. When the phone rang, while she was talking to him, um, so the phone call was for my brother. I think my sister may have picked it up, and then she gave the phone to him. It was the friend that he had just been spending time with calling him, and he immediately got excited on the phone call. Was kind of like freaking out about it, like hung up the phone and started shooting for the door to like run back out the door. My mom like stopped him, is like, "Where do you think you're going? You just got in trouble for being out late and now you're trying to leave again." He's like, "Mom, there's a UFO." And he just shot out the door. So as he left, my mom grabbed her purse and the keys and was like going to follow him in the car. So I wanted to go with her too, just to kind
So
of
when
see
you
what was
say follow
happening.
him in the car, how old is he?
He's 6 years older than me, so he's probably about 13-ish, something like
Oh, so
that.
is he on his bike?
No, he ran out on foot. He took off on
Okay.
foot.
Sorry,
But my mom.
I didn't know if he jumped in his car or something
Oh,
like
no,
that.
no. No, yeah, he ran off on foot. So, um, both of my sisters stayed behind. My older sister was like too scared by the prospect of a UFO to want to like go out and experience it. But as I kind of tell the story, you're going to see there's three different perspectives on this event. So one of them is my sisters that stayed at the house. One of them is me and my mom who left, got in her car. And one of them was my brother and his friend who were on foot. So we get in the car and we're really close to the street that this all takes place on. So we get in the car, we turn the corner, and we stop, and we see my brother running down the street ahead of us. And my mom's like out the window, "Okay, so where's this UFO?" Like we're not believing him, and he's like, "It's right there," and points, and right, I don't know how we missed it, right above the street, flying down the street really slow is a UFO.
Is
Classic.
this is this the clip the picture you've taken? Is it off Street View of the actual street now?
Yeah, this is a picture. This is from just a few years ago when I
Uh,
took this picture though, but it's the actual street
so
that this
so
took place
so this was the street where the UFO was. This is the one that I've done the thumbnail
on.
off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said it was more like this sort of size. So
Right.
so so is it? So are you seeing this in the car as well with your
Yeah.
mum?
Yeah. As soon as my brother pointed at it, I don't know how we missed it because we were literally right, basically where I took the picture from. As we're turning the corner, we're right there at that like crosswalk. Um,
So, sorry, Bill. What time was this?
This was in the evening. I don't remember how late it was. My brother was home later than he should have been, but it wasn't like late at night. So probably 7 or 8, I would guess. It was early evening because I was still up. I was a little kid, and I had a bedtime back then, so my mom wouldn't have let me stay up late. So it had to have been before my bedtime. So
Reason
7,
why I
8 o'clock.
asked that is because she mentioned in the email that it was very much like the Close Encounter.
Right.
Was it lit up?
It was just a series of lights, though. It wasn't as elaborate as that Close Encounters picture, but the point I was trying to get across with it is that street, you can kind of tell there's a street lamp there. That street is completely dark except for the house lights. So at night in the evening when the sun's down, that area is pretty much pitch black except for like some house lights on the side. So because it was so dark and there was no other real light source and there were lights on the UFO itself, the way it looked to us was kind of how that close encounters picture looks. So you can see the lights, you can kind of get a general idea of the shape of it, but you can't make out specific details because it's so dark on that street. So um, the only reason that we know for a fact that it was saucer shaped is my brother's friend who made the phone call to call my brother to say, "Hey, there's a UFO." After he dropped my brother off, he lived down the street that this UFO was on. So he was walking down the street going home. And he was like skipping rocks down the street as he was walking. And he would hear the sound of the skipping rock as he was, throwing it down the street. He
Mhm.
had stopped throwing the rocks and he heard the skipping noise again, but from above him. And when he looked up, there was a UFO. That UFO was directly above him. So it was literally 20 feet above him, right on the street, going down the street. So the only
So your
reason he would have noticed it is because he heard the weird echo and looked up. Um,
so your brother is underneath this.
my brother's friend was directly underneath it, but my brother did get under it. Because as we came around the corner, my brother was running towards it, and his friend was already underneath it still, and it was traveling slow enough to where he could catch up to it. It was literally walking speed maybe. So my brother was able to catch up to it and his friend was already underneath it. So as we're around the corner and we're looking at it like in kind of shock, my mom's immediate idea was, I'm going to go report this to the police. And to the right, if you look to the right of that street, about the 100 200 yards away is the police station. We're in a tiny town. It's not a whole lot of people. So the police station was a minute drive from where we were at right there. So my mom turned the car. We drove to the police station. We parked. She got out and ran into the police station to report it. I was still in the car looking out the back it was a station wagon, so I could look out from the back and see through the back window and still see the UFO moving down the street in the distance. My brother and his friend are still chasing after it on foot at this point.
So she's in the police station telling the police,
Right.
I
That
don't know,
she
you
sees a
the
UFO.
the and you can still see it while you're waiting in the car?
Yeah, we were still close enough. The police station was still close enough to where you could see it. If the police had just come outside, they would have seen it. But my mom was in there, wasn't very long. Hard to judge time when you're like going through all of that with like the emotions and the excitement and stuff. She wasn't in there very long, eventually gave up because they weren't really believing her, weren't going to come out. So she came out and got back in the car. At this point, the UFO kind of sped up. We could see it was moving faster than it had been out towards there's mountains that you can see in that picture that are out in the distance. It was heading the direction of those mountains. Um, so that the
Right.
mountains that you see out there, it was heading that direction directly towards those. So there's a highway that runs parallel to this little street that we're on. That's on the other side of town, like on the right hand side of where you're looking. So my mom was like, "I don't think we're gonna be able to see the UFO anymore down this street." She wanted to go down that highway and kinda try and track it as best as we could from the highway. So we got
S
on the
so
highway.
so Bill, sorry, so your
Yeah,
mum's come out of the police station, and
yeah,
your mum's now in hot pursuit of this UFO. So
yeah.
the police did nothing? They didn't come out or anything?
They didn't at that time. They definitely didn't
Okay.
come out to, like, with my mom to see it.
Sorry,
So
I'm jumping the gun. Go.
oh, no, that's fine. There's a lot of details, and like I said, there's perspectives. There's a perspective from my sisters that I'll get into that th there's a lot more to it too
Ju
as we get into it now.
just so the people in the chat know, so, I think I saw a couple about, is there a report of this? So we're gonna get into that shortly because, that's something that you're trying to get hold of. 'Cause
Yeah.
you were 7 years old, yeah?
Yeah, I was like 7 or 8, so, I was a little kid. This is also the '70s, late '70s, so it's not like today where everybody's got a cell phone in their pocket.
And
You
this
know,
is one
every
of the reasons why you wanted to come on and tell this story.
Right,
Is
is my sisters had suggested that maybe if we did finally go public, maybe someone somewhere else may have known details about this or, may know how to go about like doing a FOIA request for it or whatever to where we could kind of get the details because I think there's probably a chance that there's something on record. We just don't know how to go about getting it. This is never anything that we've tried to get publicity from or anything either. I mean, had the story for like 40 years, and this is the first time any of us have said anything publicly, um, aside from like close family members or maybe friends that we had mentioned it to. So,
so
um,
your mum's in hot pursuit of this
right.
UFO, and it's going across to the mountains. Sorry, Bill.
Oh no, no problem. Yeah, and at this point, that street ends, and it opened back in the '70s at least. It opened into a field, so it would turn into a dirt road, and it wouldn't have been a good route to go. So we're on the highway driving kind of like parallel to it, and at this point, the UFO has picked up speed to where my mom can't even like pace it in the car from from the route she was taking. So it was heading off towards those mountains. She kind of gave up. We turned around and headed back to our house. So when we got back to our house and we got out of the car, a bunch of our neighbors were outside looking at it too in the distance. My sisters had come outside, and at that point, my oldest sister told us that while we were doing all this driving, chasing it, my brother was still nowhere to be seen. He had still like run off after it and hadn't come back yet. But my sister, during all this, looked out the back window of our house and saw it. She could see the UFO going down the street. So she immediately called 911. And when she called 911, the 911 operator transferred her to the Fort Huachuca, the army base there, because I guess she figured that would probably be the best person to report a UFO to. So
Yeah.
my sister got a hold of the base, and whoever was monitoring the phones or whatever answered. She was telling him, "I can see a UFO from my house right now. It's super close, right over town." So he immediately got excited, whoever answered the phone at the base, and he transferred my sister to the commanding officer, like his commanding officer. Um, my sister told the commanding officer what he was seeing or what she was seeing, and he said, "Okay, thanks, we'll look into it." So this is where it gets kind of crazy. So we're all at our house watching the UFO basically out in the distance by those mountains now at this point. So
How big is it at this point?
it's just you can kind of see that it's a series of lights, but it's far out in the distance, out by that mountain range that you can
Is it
see.
still moving? Had it slowed down, or would you say it's still moving the same speed when it accelerated?
Yeah, once it got out to the mountains, it was just kind of hanging out there. It didn't seem to be going further away or anything until the army base. If you're looking down that street, the army base is to the right, like to the right hand side of where we're looking right now, past like those trees. It's miles away, but it's still fairly close to where we're at. So from the army base, as my sister's out telling us that she called and stuff, we see 4 helicopters come from the army base towards Wichita City, the town we live in. And as they're getting closer, we can. Oh, I forgot to mention the UFO that we saw. Classic UFO signature that everybody has. It made no sound. It was completely silent going down the street. And when we saw it, as the helicopters were coming to town, we could hear the helicopters. And we had lived there for years, so we would hear army helicopters flying over all the time because the army property was all around Juca City, the city that we lived in. So they had property and like barbed wire fences and stuff with areas that they trained and stuff all around the town that we lived in. So we were used to hearing the helicopters. So the 4 helicopters come towards the town. And the funny thing that we noticed was the UFO had 4 lights in a row as we were watching it. The helicopters, when they were coming into town, were trying to fly in formation as 4 lights in a row. But obviously they're helicopters, so they can't keep a straight, perfect line. So they're going up and down and stuff. And one of our neighbors was making like the comment that it's how funny it's almost like they're trying to look like what we just all saw. Isn't that peculiar? And it kind of was because they made a direct path to the town and then turned and went directly towards the UFO, which was still out at the mountains. So as they turned and started heading that direction, UFO zoomed. It was gone.
When it zoomed.
Yeah, it took off and left after the UFO or after the helicopters were heading towards the
What did
UFO.
that look like?
It was so far away at that point, it just looked like it went past the mountain range fast. It didn't like go to the sides. It went like out away from us. So,
Right.
so it couldn't tell like if it was instantaneous or anything, but it definitely like the lights went until we couldn't see him anymore as the helicopters were heading its direction.
So your sister reported this. Your mum chased it. You were in the
Yeah,
car with your mum, and
right,
your brother was stood at one point underneath it.
right.
Have
And
you
his friend.
spoke to your brother or his friend about what they witnessed when they were underneath it?
We talked to, yeah, it was like I said, the streets were so dark and there's no street lights and whatnot that you can't, they could tell the shape of it. They could tell it was like a dark silver kind of color, but they couldn't, it was so dark you couldn't see the details of it. Even with it being 15, 20 feet above them, the whole craft wasn't lit up. It was just lights around like the perimeter of it. So,
Oh, so it's almost like the craft is, I was just like a stealthy color. It's
right.
can't you, you cannot see this thing.
Right. It was
You
dark
but
enough
you
to where you
can.
couldn't see it.
So the light didn't. They said the. Did they say the? Oh, I think I'm going to put words in your mouth here. But
So
it's almost like you. It's almost like I'm imagining the lights are not reflecting off the material.
either that or they were facing like outward to where the light wasn't coming back onto the craft because the lights were showing outward. So they
But
were
even with that, even
Mhm.
with that, you shine your lights in on the car at something,
Right.
and there's stuff, reflective stuff to shine back, you probably get something, I would have thought.
Right, and we didn't well, the light noise from it too, like, if you showed that Close Encounters picture, the lights on it were bright enough to where you couldn't they were bright enough to where it would obscure even if you were shining light at it, the lights on it were bright enough to where it would probably obscure the light that you were trying to shine onto it, just
For
'cause
anybody who's just joined, this is not Bill and his mum. Don't wo
Right.
don't worry.
Right. Yeah, this is just the best example I could find to show, like, how the light coming off of it obscured a clear picture of it from our direction. But my brother and his friend being right underneath it could see it was a disc-shaped craft. Um, so that's how we could kind of piece everything together that what we were seeing was a disc-shaped craft, but from our perspective, it just looked like that. But without being able to see the details, just seeing the lights in that kind of shape. Um, so putting all those pieces together is how we got a more clear picture of what we were all seeing, but from different perspectives. So
So you mentioned in the email about, looking for a report that you have had a little look, you can't find
no,
anything
I
on
just
there.
yeah, I don't. I'm not like a FOIA guy or anything, so I wouldn't know what kind of report to even look for? Like what I'm sure there's got to be something. I don't know. I'm not sure how the military, somebody that would be more experienced with this kind of stuff might know better what to look for. Like I wouldn't know how they would have logged my sister's call or if they even would have. I would imagine there would have to be some sort of record if they're like scrambling helicopters to go check on something that somewhere, at that base, there's got to be a record. But does it say UFOs, UFO sighted, helicopter scrambled for it? I wouldn't know how they would do that, or if they would even make it so obvious. So I would imagine somewhere there's got to be some sort of record of it, but without knowing the exact dates or like how they would even log that, would they log my sister's call? Would they log scrambling them? I wouldn't know what to do as far as like trying to get that information. Um,
By the way, guys watching this now, the UFO is just the first bit of this story.
yeah.
But the do you happen to know roughly, I know you said it was in the 70s. Do you know
Mhm.
the what year it would have been?
Like I said,
On mum.
I was probably 7 or 8, so 78, 79. I couldn't tell you. I don't remember if it was cold or hot or, what time of year it was, other
Have
than
you
that.
asked your family?
Yeah, none of us can remember the details of that kinda stuff. I mean, it's been like 40 plus years at this point since we've done it, but, or since we've seen it, but, knowing the details of, like, the date and stuff like that, we're all kind of even my sisters and my brother, we're all not 100% on even how old we were. We're all, like, in the same ballpark. Like, I'm like, "I think I was 7 or 8," and my sisters are like, "Yeah, I think I was in my mid to early teens," which would match up as far as, like, our age differences. But we don't remember specific
I get that. I
dates.
completely get that. And it annoys me when somebody says, "Oh, how come they don't remember how,
Right,
the
right,
day." When you are a boy
right,
or even teenagers, I can't remember any of my teenage years. I can remember moments of things
right,
happening. I can remember moments of weird shit happening.
right,
I cannot remember the date of it.
right.
Um, but I mean, if you don't mind, is your mum
Mhm.
still with us?
Oh, yeah, yeah, she still is. I talked to her. She actually lives with me. I'm like her caretaker, me and my family. So I was talking to her the other day about it, trying to remember or trying to get her recollections of stuff, what she remembered. Like specifically, I was asking her, "Do you remember the conversation when you went to the police station, what they told you?" And she couldn't remember the details of it. She just remembers them not believing it enough or like I'm not sure exactly how she put it, as far as like they weren't willing to come out with her to even just take a look. That's all it would have taken is "Hey, come out, look, it's right there, you will see it." But they wouldn't even do that. They wouldn't come out to even take a look. So, um, but yeah, I was trying to get the details on the conversation, and that's even fuzzy for her. I mean, at 40 years, some things are embedded in my memory about it. Same for my, my siblings and my mom. But overall, big picture, all it's impossible to remember every detail with clarity at this point. So even something as monumental as that, happening, it's hard to
Do you,
remember everything.
would you say though, seeing this object in the sky, there's no way you could debunk that to be anything other than a flying saucer. Let's not say UFO
Right.
because it's
Right.
not. I mean, I know it's an unidentified flying object, but would you say that that was an alien craft or even our craft?
Yeah, I'll have to be honest, be pure speculation. I can only say what we saw. Disc shaped craft, totally silent, flying down the street, it's incredibly low to the ground at a slow speed and then, moving off faster. Who was flying it, whose ship it was, where it came from, I can't. I would be lying if I told you I knew the answers to those. So I have no idea. Could it have been a military craft from Fort Huachuca, and that's why they came out and were flying in a certain formation to try and mimic the visual of it? Maybe. I don't know. It's just pure speculation on our part as far as like what it was other than what we saw.
Have you seen anything that looks similar to it? Have you seen any photographs of anybody's footage, anything that's up on the internet, whatever, of anything that look like this,
Not really.
other than what? Uh,
Close encounters.
yeah,
No, no. I mean, like most. I mean, I've seen other videos of nothing that close because no one. I've never seen any video of anybody that has captured something as close as we saw it. It was so close, there was no mistaking what it was. But I've never seen anybody with a similar footage, photo, that kind of thing. Especially because at night, it was ours was such a dark street and the craft was like so obscured by the lights and stuff that it's hard to see anything that's similar other than that example. And that even that close encounters example isn't a perfect example. So
when's this taken? Do you know? You did you grab this off Google?
no, I actually I took my son like I don't know 4 or 5 years ago to the town that we used to live in just to kind of show him where I grew up. And when we were there, I was like, I'm going to take a picture of this street because this is the street that we saw a UFO on. So I took that picture 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
So what it looked like in the 70s, not much different. I bet you the trees are probably at different growth levels back then. But other than that, that town really hasn't changed a whole lot since we lived there.
Is this a busy road or is
No, it's just a residential street. And it's literally, if you turned around and were looking behind you, the elementary school for the town is right behind you. So,
right?
um, so yeah, the only traffic that street gets really is people that live on it or are
What's the
going to
town called
school.
again?
It's Huachuca City,
Right. In
Arizona.
Arizona.
Mhm.
And my good friend Goofon Rich is from well was from Arizona. Maybe he knows it. Um, so you were 7 years old at this
Mhm.
point, but then the weird stuff started to happen after this.
Actually, the weird stuff happened before it.
Oh, was it before? Okay, I did.
Yeah,
It's my fault. I did say I wanted to start with the UFO.
no, that's fine. Um, The we lived in it was a trailer, mobile home, whatever you might wanna call it, when we lived in Huachuca City. It was a three-bedroom trailer that we moved into. Um, when we first, got to Arizona, my mom left my father. She was a single parent with 4 kids, leaving an abusive husband and father. So we initially stayed with my aunt and her family until my mom could kinda get situated and, kind of find a house for us to live in, that kind of thing. So we moved into a trailer in Wichita City that was vacant, and my mom um, basically applied to like to buy it. So um, the stuff that we started seeing with like shadow people happened shortly after we moved into that trailer. So when we moved there, I was about 3 years old when we moved to Arizona. So I was pretty young at this point. So it's before the UFO type stuff. But the experiences that happened in the trailer, it was specific to one room, especially in it, which was the master bedroom in the trailer. And then there was a bathroom that was fairly close to it that also would make us uneasy. But all the sightings and things happened in the master bedroom. And when we first moved in there, that was my sisters. Both of my sisters shared that as their bedroom. So they would see a shadowy shape in the corner of the room, just kind of staring, sitting there watching them. Um, wouldn't really move or anything like that. It would just sit there and watch them. But it was enough to where they knew something weird was there. They could see it. It was, blacker than the shadows that it was standing in. So if somebody was standing in dark shadows, you would see their outline, and they would see the outline of of a shape there of like a person. So
This is both your
um,
sisters.
both of my sisters, yeah, and
So they
the,
both saw this.
they both saw it, yeah, and they would both get they slept in the same bed. The way the trailer was made, it was a weird construction. It was the only trailer I've ever been in that had two stories. On like a portion of the house of the trailer had a lower story and an upper story. And the lower story was a bedroom that me and my brother shared that had two beds that were kind of built into the walls. And the roof of our bedroom made a platform on the bedroom above that was like the platform that the mattress sat on for the master bedroom's bed. So it was basically a mattress sitting on a wooden foundation in the upper bedroom, which is where my sisters were. And they would be in the bed sleeping sometimes, and the whole mattress would shift on on that frame because you could slide the mattress around on it. It wasn't attached; it was just laying on top of the wooden foundation. They would feel the whole mattress moving around, like shifting around and moving. They would also get touched or grabbed, or like they would feel like pressure on the mattress, like if somebody was standing or pushing on it. So, um, my sister said sometimes it would even feel like a cat had jumped on the bed. They would feel like something jump on the bed that wasn't like a huge weight of like a person, but definitely something heavy enough to where they felt something hop onto the bed with them. So they would get harassed all the time like that. They told my mom about it, but my mom didn't really believe it. She didn't know they were like making it up or what the case might be. So my sisters, after a while, got fed up and they swapped rooms with my mom while she was at work one day. They're like, okay, we're going to take your room, mom. You're going to now sleep in that room. And then because we don't want to deal with this anymore. We don't know what's going on. So once my mom moved into that room, my mom would have the same experiences. So then she would see a dark shape in the corner. The bed would move. She would get touched and stuff like that as well. So um, it was all it
When
all.
when you say touch, is it like moving or
Yeah,
feeling actual physical like grab, or is it
like
actually
that.
on the sheets?
Yeah, no, like being grabbed or being like pushed or poked or something that was like attention seeking, almost like, hey, I'm here, poking, pushing, shaking the bed, something like that, almost like it was trying to get a reaction out of them and let them know that whatever it was there, and it was wanting to get their attention and some sort of reaction from it is the impression that they got. So my mom seemed to be able to tolerate it more and didn't once my sisters had moved, but we all, even though me and my brother never had any experiences like that, we never saw anything, never had anything touch or mess with us. We always felt uneasy in that area, like my mom's bedroom in particular. And then there was a bathroom back there by that bedroom as well that we all felt weird in. Since there was 4 kids and my mom all sharing 2 bathrooms in this trailer, obviously when it was time to shower or things like that, we couldn't just all monopolize one bathroom, so we'd have to use the other one, but none of us felt comfortable using it to take a shower or go to the bathroom or anything in it. And in fact, my sisters and I were talking about it just the other day. None of us were wanted to close our eyes when we were showering, just because you were afraid if you opened it, you just got a weird feeling that if you opened your eyes, something would be there. So if so you would shower, like wash your hair, but keep your eyes open. Or if you couldn't, I would turn and face the wall because it was a built-in shower, like a square shower with one opening towards one side. I would face the wall as close as I could. And then if I had to close my eyes, wash my hair, open my eyes facing the wall just so I wouldn't have to see anything. It was an odd feeling in that bathroom, just an uneasiness to where that bathroom in my mom's bedroom just didn't feel right. They felt off.
So the bathroom's attached to the bedroom. How old
It
is this trailer?
I don't know how old it was at the time, to be honest, because we basically moved into it when it was vacant, and then my mom, tried to purchase it. She was making payments on it, so I don't know how old it was prior to us getting into it. Um,
And you don't know who might have had it beforehand, or
no, nothing like that. And my mom, like I said, my mom was a single mom raising 4 kids. She put herself through like nursing school and stuff, so we were never like rolling in money. So I mean, it's we basically had to live like an option of this place is haunted to go live somewhere else. It was like we're stuck here. Let's just kind of deal with it, live through it. Uh, and my mom, experiencing most of it at the end there, the later years of it. Um, she took on the burden basically of dealing with it.
did your was your older brother living there as well?
Yeah,
Did he
he
ever
and
see it?
I shared a room. No, he didn't have any experiences either. Neither of us were bothered by it, just my sisters and my mom. But we had the same uneasiness living there. Um, and we all had like vivid nightmares during that time too. Like we would always have crazy dreams that were really seemed real, seemed vivid, frightening kind of thing. Not like lucid dreams or anything like that, but just you would wake up from the nightmare because it was bad enough to jar you out of your sleep kind of thing. But um just an uneasy place to live.
Does anybody remember? I mean, it's a long time ago. Does anybody ever remember what any of the kind of dreams that they'd have?
Yeah, I remember mine especially. The way the trailer was built, there was a off the living room, there was a door, and that door led to the bathroom, the upper bedroom, and my brother and my lower bedroom that was all on one side of the house. And my dreams would more often than not would deal with being in the living room. That doorway that led to the area that kind of made us all feel uneasy would like bow out or like move, and there would be like, I guess you would call it like demonic or like some sort of like voices behind the door that were didn't sound great. And they would never speak English. They would always speak in some sort of dialect that I have no idea what it was. So the door would be like almost like something was trying to get out of the door and was angry and talking while it was trying to do it, but I couldn't make out what it was saying. That was like my reoccurring nightmare that I would have a lot living there was that. But I'm not sure like what my sisters and theirs were either. We would just always tell each other, I always have nightmares living here kind of thing. So, but those were my primary dreams were always that kind of theme behind it.
So yours When you say like bow, is it almost like it stretches?
Yeah, or like something was behind it and the door was almost like rubbery or something. So if it was pushing it, the door wasn't like cracking and breaking. It was just kind of like pushing out, like bowing out towards the living room. So, um, like something was behind it, wasn't breaking through, but was trying to get through the door, but the door was like rubbery almost.
But you never saw anything in you never saw any figures in these dreams?
No, I never saw anything. My brother never saw anything. Just my sisters and my mom. But later on, my uncle, who was an atheist, he would come to visit us all the time. And when he would come out to visit, he would sleep in the living room, like on one of the couches. My uncle did atheist, didn't believe in God. When he was in the living room one day, he
We
saw
lost
a
you.
figure.
We lost you at your uncle being an atheist.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear?
Yeah, you said your uncle went to sleep in the living room.
Yeah, he was sleeping in the living room, and he woke up during the night and he saw a black shape of a person come through the wall, go through the living room into the other side of the trailer. So he told us that the next day. He still didn't believe that he saw anything really. He wasn't even sure if he like dreamt it or whatever. Since he was an atheist and didn't believe in anything, he was trying to find a rational explanation for what he saw. But he saw all that without us even telling him that there was something there. So he had a weird experience with a black shape coming out of the wall, going through the living room into the other side of the trailer,
When you say
without
into
any
is
prompting.
that where the bed? Did he go into where the bedroom is?
It came from where the bedrooms were and went to the other side of the house. So it came from the area that all the activity seemed to take place in, and that made us uneasy. Was that side of the house? And then later, my my sister was dating a guy, who she would marry later on, but they would be over the house all the time, because they were seeing my sister. So him and his brother would be at our house more often than not. And
Is
there
this
was
still prior to the UFO?
no this particular one that I'm going to tell you is after the UFO.
But this is still at the trailer.
Yeah, the same trailer.
Yeah.
So he was staying there. It was the daytime. We had all left to like either go like pick up food or go grocery shopping or something, but he stayed at our house. He was like, I don't want to go. I'll just stay here and wait for you guys. So we all left, went to the store, whatever we did. When we came back, he was sitting outside of our trailer on the steps leading up to our front door. So when we came back up, we're like, "What are you doing outside?" He's like, "Something told me to get out of your house." Audibly, loudly, meanly said, "Get out." He's like, "So I got out." so so he was waiting for us when we got back, um outside like he was told. So so some other people like him, my uncle, had experiences too besides my sisters and my mom. But not everybody had experiences there. It was seemed selective on who it was going to present itself to.
I'll tell you something. If something told me to get out, I wouldn't just sit on the doorstep. I'd be gone.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah, yeah. He got out, but yeah, he stayed.
So did did anybody else? When did it just stop eventually, or did it carry until you moved?
Yeah. Well, what happened was, we eventually moved from that town in that trailer. We left and we went to a town called Tucson, Arizona, instead, which was a bigger city because my mom had a better opportunity as a nurse for a job there. So she picked us all up and we all moved to Tucson instead. So we moved to a house there. Seems like whatever was in the trailer followed us from the trailer to the house. So my mom, at that point, again, for some reason, it just went to my mom's room, the master bedroom of that house. So at this house, my mom had probably like the most dramatic experience out of all the experiences we had. Um, my brother was my brother was living with us at the time. I was a teenager, and my mom in the middle of the night. Uh, my brother he had just got home from work, so he was just falling asleep. And he heard my mom scream his name, like, I'm not gonna give my brother's name, but she yelled my brother's name out, and it like jarred him awake to where he was like, "Uh-oh, something's going on." He ran down the hallway and opened the door to my mom's room and turned on the light. My mom was hiding under the covers in her room. So he said it took a bit to like get her to calm down and ask her what's going on. He's like, is there somebody, was there somebody, he thought maybe somebody broke in or something. He didn't know what was going on. So he got her to calm down eventually, and he asked, like, "Mom, what's going on? What happened?" She's like, "I just saw the ghost in here." And what she had told us, what she saw was, my mom would normally work like the graveyard shifts. So she would sleep at odd times, just kind of whenever she could get in. She would alternate too. She would do an 11 to 7 a.m. shift, and then the next day, because she was trying to make ends meet, would sometimes do a 7 to 3 back to back. So she would do long shifts to where she would just kind of sleep when she could. But we would go into her room occasionally while she was sleeping and ask her, "Hey, can we borrow the car? Hey, can we get money to go get food or something?" We would go in and like wake her up sometimes to get her to answer a question. So that night, she woke up out of a sleep and saw a figure at the end of her bed. She thought it was one of us, and she's like, "What do you want?" And it just floated towards her. It didn't walk like a person. It just came at her to where she knew it was not one of us and pulled the covers over her head and screamed for my brother. So, and my brother said the scream was, it's one of those things where when you're like so scared your voice kind of cracks, like it doesn't come out naturally. He said it came out like that. It came out. That's why he was so worried that it was something like a prowler or something in the house, because of the way she screamed his name came out definitely fearful. Like it was a fearful state. So when he got in there and asked her what was going on and she told him that, he looked around and didn't see anything. And he's like, "Are you sure you weren't dreaming?" And she said, "No, there was definitely somebody there. I was awake and alert enough to think it was one of you guys coming in to ask for something, but then it ended up, not being the case." So, but that was the most like dramatic kind of experience out of any of the experiences, I guess you would say. But when we moved and left that house and moved to Phoenix from Tucson, the activity stopped. So since that point, which is the early 90s, it was shortly after I graduated high school, my mom moved us here. Um, that's when activity stopped and we didn't have any more like shadow being experienced kind of stuff anymore after that.
When you moved from the trailer
Mhm,
to the second house where your mum, had the terrifying experience and screamed,
mhm.
did you all go?
Yeah. At the time, my sisters were still with us. Their husbands were gonna move to Tucson too.
Yep.
So they all moved with us, and we all stayed in the house together until they could kind of find their
And
own jobs and stuff.
what about the third house? Did everybody go?
No, at that point it was just one of my sisters and I and my mom with their children at the time. So they had separated from their husband and were living with my mom at the time with me as a just getting out of high school. So
So so who didn't come, sorry? Who didn't come?
my brother and my other sister didn't come with us. It was just me, one of my sisters, my mom, and her kids came with us.
Your other sister,
Mhm.
has she has she experienced anything since?
No, yeah, it stopped for all of us moving out of that house in Tucson up to Phoenix.
The reason why I asked this, Bill, is because it
Mhm.
seems that this being, shadow figure, whatever you want to call them, seemed to be more attracted to a female presence than
Right,
a male presence because he ignored your uncle completely and just went
right.
past him.
Ignored me and my brother completely. Never even presented itself to us. So But my sister's boyfriend, he did get told to get out of the house. But other than that, yeah, the the people that would harass would be my mom and my sisters.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, if it didn't happen at the time it happened, because my dad passed when I was young, but we had the experiences before my dad passed, I would have almost thought it would be my dad because he wasn't, by all accounts, a great guy. I could see him doing something like that, coming back to harass my mom and sisters, but I don't think that was the case because we had the experiences before he passed on. So I don't know where it came from. I would imagine, just because of how it all occurred, that it was probably present in the trailer when we moved in, followed us to Tucson, but then stopped following us after that. Because as we were living in Tucson, the experiences happened less and less to where we eventually just, I don't even think we had them anymore at some point. It didn't seem like a reoccurring thing anymore to where if it was attracted to certain energy or people or whatnot, it probably wasn't getting it anymore at that point. So maybe it decided to stay when we moved, or it left even before that. I don't know. I'm not sure what was going on with it.
Do you feel? I mean, the UFO came in between, didn't
Right.
am I right? The UFO came directly in between
Yeah.
the trailer, and then after being at the trailer for a little bit longer,
Hmm.
the UFO was directly in between that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. It started, like I said, I was probably like 4 or so when the shadow stuff happened, and I was like 7 or 8 when we saw the UFO. So it was definitely in the middle of the shadow experience stuff.
Do you ever feel that? Have you ever thought that the UFO might be something to do with it?
I don't get that impression. No. I can't say for sure because I don't. I In either case, I don't know what the shadow stuff was, and I don't know what the UFO was, so I don't know if there's a correlation or not. Um, but I don't get the feeling there was, but I can't say for sure it wasn't. I don't have the answers to or have any kind of indications that it's connected to where I would put those together. I almost see them as separate things.
It's
And I did, because I did have another UFO sighting in my 20s too, after everything was after all the ghost or the shadow stuff was done. Um that happened well after, the shadow stuff stopped. It wasn't nearly as dramatic or close as the one we saw in Wichita City. This one was a I was in my 20s, and my friend, his grandparents had a cabin in the White Mountains here in Arizona, which is like a wooded area in the mountain area of the state. We were going to go up there for the weekend to stay at his grandparents' cabin. So it was him, another friend of ours, and myself. Were driving up there. This is like the middle of the night. They got off work late, like at 11, and they came from Tucson to come pick me up in Phoenix, which is about an hour and 20-minute drive or so. Um, so they were at my house to pick me up at like 1:30, almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and then up to the mountains is another few hour drive in the middle of the night. So while we were driving up to the mountains, my friend and I, without even telling each other, he was the passenger in the front, I was in the back seat. We kept looking at a certain spot in the sky, just as we were driving, because you can see the cloud or the stars really well because there's no clouds, and also when you're out of the city, you can see the stars a lot better than in the city limits. So we're both just kind of staring at the stars from the car. There was a weird patch of sky that just looked off, like discolored or something. It was hard to explain, but there was just one spot that we both, our attention just kept getting drawn to without telling each other, of sky that looked bizarre. And as we were getting closer to the cabin, the sun started coming up a little bit in the distance. You could see it rising in the distance to where the sky was starting to light up a little bit. You could start to see the stars go away and the sky changed. And at one point, we both were looking at that same spot in the sky, and a distinct, perfect triangle lit up. Perfect shaped triangle, like lit up in that spot that was weird in the sky the entire night. Lit up, and we're like, holy shit. We told our friend, pull over. There's something in the sky. We want to see it. So he quickly pulled over. And as we were getting out of the car to look, it like instantly dissipated. It like disappeared, not flew away or anything. It just like evaporated. Like perfect lit up triangle, just
It's
gone.
it's almost like they want you to see them, and then they're like, "Nah."
Yeah. Like, yeah, because our friend was like, oh, there was a UFO, right? Because he didn't get to see it. He was driving, pulled over, got out of the car, and it dissipated by the time he got out and was able to look. So it was weird just because we kept seeing something there all night, but boom, gone. And same thing. I don't know what that was. It could very well have been some sort of optical thing, but there was nothing there that after it dissipated like a cloud or anything in that spot of the sky that could have been reflecting it. So it was weird that it just lit up, then was gone. So,
We were speaking before we went live.
mhm,
We were talking about the live stream I did about Travis Walton,
mhm,
and about the allegations that Mike made, that they faked it, and you've, like a few of my other guests, you've met Travis Walton.
mhm. Yeah, I met him at a MUFON thing. There was like a Sky Watch kind of party that a friend of mine that was starting to get involved with MUFON like invited me to. He was like, "Hey, you want to come check this out?" They're going to be like showing off. It was Ben Hansen was like basically the guy putting it on for the MUFON crowd, showing off like night vision uh, technology that he had that you could connect to your computer to watch the sky and stuff like that. But while we were there, Travis Walton was there as well. He was like just kind of I don't know why exactly. Maybe he was invited or something, but he was just there, not as like a guest, but just somebody that was there. But um, my friend was talking to him about his experience, like what he was going through, like what he went through and that kind of thing. And I don't know. It's funny because here I am telling a story that I'm like, hey, believe me, I saw UFOs or whatnot. But I got a weird vibe off of him to where I don't know. It just felt disingenuous. Like I'm not sure. It was almost like he was there to kind of get attention and then just kind of tell his story again. Um, but when he was telling it, it just I don't know came off really weird to me. To where before that, I saw the Fire in the Sky movie and knew like some about like his story, and I kind of was like, wow, that's a crazy story, and kind of
Well, the fire in the sky story is literally nothing like what
right,
happened.
right. But having her hear him tell the story though, it's I don't know, it just came off. I got a bad vibe off of it to where I had a hard time believing him. But I mean, that's just me, just my
No,
personal
no,
like
no.
gut feeling.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why I asked. I mean, I don't know what to believe.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it
yeah,
for me. And I said this, for them to pull that off with, oh, these guys,
right,
it, it's genius. You know,
right,
I I shouldn't say this because I keep telling people I'm not a ufologist.
right.
I'm just entertaining. Well, I hope I'm entertaining. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
entertain, should I say?
right.
Um, I have a love for the subject. But if I found out, if Travis just turned around, went on Joe Rogan, when, you know what, Joe, I made it all up. This is how we did it. I'd be like,
Yeah,
holy shit. You know,
yeah,
that's it's like it's like a it's like there's the heists. It's the biggest heist of ufology, isn't it? For them
Right.
to pull that off with all those people, and I've heard a few of my guests have met Travis Walton,
Mhm.
and one of my friends, he said he's an asshole, you know. But I'm just, but he believes him. He believes the
Right.
story. I'm wondering if when you tell a story so many times,
Mhm.
over and over and over and over again, what if you eventually just think, you know what, I'm making some money off this because what am I going to do now? I've been telling this story my whole life, so all I can do now is keep telling this story. But you know
Right.
what? I'm absolutely sick to death of telling this
Right.
part of my French, but fucking story, you know?
Right. No, I
Uh,
mean, there would certainly
I
come a point where you've told the story for so long as being true that going back on it would probably almost be more frightening than keeping the lie going, if that makes any sense. That's just the
the
impression I get.
Yeah, I would love the opportunity to get Travis Walton on here and just, pick his brains.
Right.
I would ask him questions that no fuckers asked him. You know, what did it smell like?
Right. Right.
Did you feel like licking the craft? You know,
Right.
I want to know. Did these things? How many times did they blink? What did they smell like? Did the female one smell good? I want to know all this sort of stuff.
Right. The finer
I want to know the
details.
really weird. I want to know the finer details. Yeah, what did that remote control look like? Did it look like a general TV remote control, or did it look like like more like an iPhone, but with 3D buttons on it? And that's what one thing about the story, and this is about all UFO cases that
Mhm.
always don't sit well with me, and why yours sat really well with me because you know I think Spielberg knew some shit.
Right.
When he did that film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think he knew some things, and I know he'd been speaking to Hynek,
Right.
um, and he'd done a lot of research when making that film,
Right.
and the way he did showed them UFOs off. If you watch that film now, it stands the test of time. It
No, for
really
sure.
does. It really does. And the thing that sticks with Travis's story for me is some of the things, the very 70s, the very dated, the remote control on the chair, the way the Nordic blondes were described and how the person drew them, they look like ABBA, you know.
Right. 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 Yeah,
That's
the aesthetic was from that time period.
Yeah, but maybe that's just how an artist would depict it at the time.
Right.
Because whatever time period you're in, if somebody explained a UFO now and they explained, even if the UFO looked like, a 1960s Mustang or whatever,
Mhm.
but it had all the same sort of shape to it, I think people would struggle to not draw it like, 2021 style, because
Right.
that's the way people depict things. So just because Travis explains it that way, the artist impression is it's not always right, unless and Travis is, I don't think he's an artist, so he's never really drawn much of his stuff. I think he's drawn a little bit
Right.
of it, but I don't think it's like amazing stuff. But I think the story, to stand that test of time and him not change his story once from that, but now
Mhm.
Mike's come out of the background.
Right.
I am going to get possibly an exclusive with Ryan, who was making the documentary,
Mhm.
the real documentary to Fire in the Sky, that never happened. So hopefully, he's going to come back on at some point. He's very busy, and he said he won't be for a long time. But he said
Yeah.
maybe I'll give you an exclusive on something. But I'd love to get Travis on. I would
Yeah.
love to get Travis on. I'd even get Mike on.
Yeah. No,
Mike
and
and
I'm
Travis in the same room.
like I said, I don't. The only people who know the truth are them, but just my gut. I have a weird thing on it, and I don't know. I just people that try and make money off of it is what kind of throws a monkey wrench in it for me. Like this is the only interview I'm going to do on this. I'm not going to go on anybody else's channels or anything like that.
You
Like I
feel
told you.
privileged.
Oh
You're
no, yeah.
privileged.
Um, and I'm not trying to get publicity off of it or anything, or get a story or anything. I just, like I told you, I got an impression that if I met you as a coworker, you'd be the kind of guy that I would actually share my story with. And like I said, figured why not? You know, if I'd be willing to do it, then why not just come on your channel and do it? And the way I'm seeing it is, I'm talking to you. Everybody else is just kind of overhearing our conversation. So um, I'm just doing this to share my story with you, basically. So not trying
Uh,
to get anything out of this.
Well, that's really appreciated, Bill. So after your 20s, have you ever experienced anything since? Have you just been searching?
Yeah, well, the only other thing I had was having grown up in that house. There's like, I know I've talked to other people too that have had like experiences with ghosts or anything like that. There's like a weird feeling you get when something is around, like if you're in a house that might be haunted or something like that. And it's there's no way to describe it. It's the only thing that feels like it is that kind of presence. And I was at a house party when, again, this was probably like my later 20s. I was at a house party and we were there in the kitchen talking, like a few people in there, and I got the weird feeling that I would get living in that trailer. And so I was like, wow, I'm getting that weird feeling like there's something here. And the owner of the house came by and I was like, hey, I know this is out of the blue question and you probably think I'm crazy, but is there a ghost in your house or anything like that? And they're like, funny you should say that. There actually is, but um, whatever's here seems to be friendly. They just do any activity that we have is kind of like practical joke kind of stuff. We're like, oh, okay, that's funny. So we're sitting in the kitchen just talking, and one of the people that's standing next to me is like, holy shit, it feels really cold here all of a sudden. And we're sitting right next to the sink. The faucet handle of the sink turns itself on and the water comes on. And we all saw it with our eyes physically turn and the water come on. And we're like, huh,
Oh, so you actually saw the tap move?
saw the tap move and the water come on like shortly after somebody was like, wow, it feels really cold right here. So we all started laughing and we're like, well, guess that's it, being a jokester, kind of thing. Turned the water off and then just we all went about talking again. But um that's the only other activity I've had in my life since we moved from out of that house in Tucson. Was that, and that's the only personal ghost thing that I've had happen to me or seen in front of me was something like that. And even that, could the pipes have been weird and turned? Who knows? I can only say what I saw with my eyes. I can't explain how it happened or what made it occur. So um,
Have you seen my interview with David?
I don't think so. You normally come on live when I'm at work, so I try and catch you when I can in the
It's an
evenings.
older one and it's blurred out. Oh, thank you, Mr. DB Cooper, you sexy man. And he is a sexy man. I'll get myself a bottle of wine with that.
There you go.
No, actually, I shouldn't say that because then I'm not funding his alcoholism. The dirty
No, by all
alcoholic.
means do.
I was just saying to you beforehand, this is my only time that no, I'm lying. I do dabble now and again in
Mhm.
more alcohol, but my main alcohol session is just on Alien Addict. I like to have a bottle of wine. Mr. DB Cooper, I love you, man. Thank you very much. Didn't mean to knock it off that early. Um, yeah, my friend David, he's been on the channel a few times. He saw my interview with John, and he sent me this email, and he thinks John has he called it. Have you seen Stir of Echoes
Mhm.
film?
Yeah.
a flashlight, not fleshlight, people.
Right. Right.
A flashlight, like you can, it kind of turns on and off.
Mhm.
And he thinks that John has this gift, but he can't control it almost. And it sounds
Right.
to me like maybe you or your family have some sort of, I think only certain people can see these things,
Right.
or these things feel comfortable enough to show themselves to certain people.
Right.
Um, I have you seen you've seen The Shining, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's a similar thing that Stephen, they said Steven Spielberg, Stephen King wrote about when he, because it wasn't Stanley Kubrick, it was Stephen King that wrote The Shining, people, before you
Right.
start getting in the chat. It was Stanley Kubrick. It was Stephen King's book. So yeah, when Stephen King wrote about that, it's similar stuff, similar situation to um Stair of Echoes with the
Mhm.
flashlight, that certain people can see these things.
Ye
And yeah, John is in the chat. There we are. And even if David was in the chat, I couldn't reveal who he is. Um, I don't think he is. I've not seen him tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, John,
Mhm.
he's 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 on an investigation at the minute in his entire apartment, and he sees stuff like, and I've seen things in his apartment. I've got a John vlog here with like probably over a gig's worth of stuff in there of weird orbs and stuff moving around. A lot of people said in the beginning, "Oh, I think it's dust," but we've kind of
Mhm.
we've sent it to other people, and it's definitely something there. And we've seen like shadows moving around in the apartment as well. So I think with yourself, mate, it's you've probably got some sort of, you kind of switched on to this.
Yeah. I have a feeling that there's like I've been seeing interviews with people that have experiences and stuff, and it seems like if you're kinda open to the prospect or the idea of it, um, then sometimes things will manifest for you, and I think there might be something to that. Like, if you're not necessarily invoking it, but, like, if you're kinda open to having the experience, you probably have a better chance of having the experience, is the impression I kinda get, but I'm by no means an investigator or an expert or anything on it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think there's something to that. Like if you're receptive to it or an antenna for it, maybe even, then sometimes things will happen. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I mean, I try it all the time. I was speaking to David a few months ago, and he said after the live stream, he says, "Why don't you just try, standing outside and seeing if you can almost get them to to
To
come."
come.
I've not managed to do it yet. I've seen UFOs,
Mhm.
and I always see them at the last minute, and at the last minute, I think, "Oh, I'll get my phone out for that," and then it just
Right.
disappears, you
Right.
know? But and a lot of the time I see them are in the day, and
Mhm.
I used to get the train to work all the time, and I used to see stuff on a morning, in the hazy British sky, and I'm stood at the train station with all these people, and I'm thinking, "There's something there," but I'm thinking at the time, I can't get my phone out and start doing that. I felt like a right idiot because wasn't 100% sure if it was something.
Right. And
But I'm
everybody
thinking,
would turn and be
who
like, "What is that guy doing?"
yeah, but then who lets balloons off at 6 a.m. in the morning?
Right.
So
Yeah, like I've actually bought night vision binoculars that I have because just going out into the backyard, sometimes you'll see something at night. I'll take my dog out and see something, and I'm like, "What is that?" And I'm like, probably just a plane or whatever." But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna buy something to where I can see for sure what it is, so that way there's no question about what I'm seeing. And I haven't seen anything yet, but I have them just in case. There's something. Then I can record it and have something that I can show or look at.
So, so this the kind of the last was the last situation. Have you ever experienced anything paranormal in your late 20s?
Yeah, that was the last time I had anything, and then nothing, nothing really since then, as far as like UFOs, ghosts, nothing like that.
But you've been researching it, well, kind of researching it ever since you've been into it.
Yeah, like I mentioned, since I've had stuff, I'll occasionally go through periods where I'm like, huh, I wonder, like, uh, To the Stars Academy starts releasing stuff and it gets in the news, and I'm like, oh yeah, UFOs, and then I'll like go down a rabbit hole for a while where I'll start watching stuff, and looking into it because I've always been interested in it, and mainly just because of more than anything. Like, what did we see? Does anybody have answers about it now? Revisit the topic, but it's hard to get into it because I don't know, there's so many hucksters and charlatans and stuff. So it's and like trying to look at videos on YouTube, it's like 90% CGI and like fake stuff. So it's trying to cut through that is a pain. That's why, like I said, you're one of the only YouTube channels I follow because I your interest seems to be aligned with mine. Like you're into it, you're just trying to figure it out. So you come at it from a perspective that I do. So it's almost like you're doing the research for me. So that's why I like watching your channel in particular, is because you bring on just regular people too, like myself, that may have seen something, don't know what they saw, had an experience, and share a story that we may not have got to hear otherwise. Because it's
It's
not sexy enough to be on Discovery Channel or whatever the case might be.
well, the thing is, I mean, even if my channel exploded overnight, and I'd still want the regular people on because it's the regular people that have the stories.
Right,
It's the people that will. I don't want to say bring disclosure, but it's the people that will make other people understand and believe.
right, and
Because
just
I don't think government telling us things or showing us lights in the sky.
right,
I think there's a lot of people that don't trust any of it for a start. So I
yeah,
think
for sure.
it's real stories from real people. And you know what? There will be the time that I'll get the odd, person that just wants to prank me or whatever.
Right.
And God help you if you do, because I'll be well in for that.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's people like you having Rick and Havoc on and stuff, that his story is a lot more believable to me than people that have went nationally and sold it and got a book deal and I don't know. It feels like a story for the sake of publicity more than, hey, I had a crazy experience. I just want to share it with other people that had an experience. What do you think? What is it? How does it compare to yours? That kind of thing. That interests me a lot more than the latest documentary on Netflix where it's showing the same old stories we've seen 1,000 times that are, you know,
Well,
I I met people from Venus. Really? From Venus? So,
the Venusians is that?
yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, though, Bill, the real stories, they are going to be short and sweet. You know
Mhm.
that they're not going to be bells and whistles,
Right.
because I don't know what is going on, or if these shadow beings are anything to do with the UFOs, the lights in the skies. It could be a completely separate thing.
Right.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't either.
I've had so many guests on now talking about similar situations with these shadow beings. I myself have had a situation with what I would call a shadow being. I can
Mhm.
barely remember it, but my wife remembers it very well. She didn't see anything. I just sat up in bed and oh my god, if that cat prangs on that door, 1 second, mate.
Sure.
He's there just going like this.
Oh, geez. I'm surprised mine hasn't interrupted. He's in the bedroom here too, so
He normally sits behind me, but I think he's sulking because we went away for a week with a and you
he's
know,
mad.
well, no, they had babysitters, just not
Yeah.
us. So yeah, I think these creatures, whatever they are,
Mhm.
they've probably been here a very long time. I do think there is something. I really do.
Yeah.
Like I say, I saw something myself. My wife was freaked out,
Mhm.
but she was only freaked out by my reaction, like what you said with your mum. But mine was a
Right.
completely different experience. You know,
Mhm.
I said I sat up in bed and I said this, and I went like that. Also, I can't even remember. My
Mhm.
wife tells it better than I do.
Right.
Um, but she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" She just saw me staring, and I
Mhm.
said, "There's something sat on the edge of the bed." And she says, "Oh, you're freaking me out now." 'Cause she can't even watch horror films.
Right.
And I went,
Right.
and I can remember this. I turned around to her and said, "Don't worry, it's nice." I used the word nice. And then I rolled over and went back to sleep, left her freaked out.
Oh, I bet. I
Yeah.
bet.
But I can remember something being there very
Vivid. Yeah.
yeah, vivid. Vivid. But it didn't feel like a dream at all.
Yeah, it's interesting because my brother, his perspective on all of it is changed, and it's kind of it's interesting to see like when Lou Elizondo was talking about like people in the Pentagon and like a religious take on it. My brother has become very religious in this period of his life, and his feeling about everything, the UFO we saw, the ghosts that we lived with, all of that is it's all a test against his faith. Like it all happened to test his faith at this point in his life because all of it does challenge his Christian beliefs as far as like, are we alone in the universe? Are ghosts real? Can they visit you? That kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff. He saw it as a way to challenge his belief at this point in his life. So his perspective on all of our experiences is completely different now than it was years ago, and from even my siblings and my mom and I.
But your brother was the one that at one point was directly underneath this thing.
Right. And he will still tell you he was there, he saw it, he was underneath it, but he thinks it was the work of something, the devil, you may say, or something to challenge his beliefs on on the existence of God. Um so his whole perspective on everything, he still will acknowledge it happened, just not for the reasons or the same way we all see it now. So it's his perspective has changed based off of his, current religious beliefs.
So your brother thinks that uh, God placed this, and this is not being. I find this interesting.
Yeah.
He thinks that God placed this object on that road that
Mhm.
night and moved the object to the mountains and all the helicopters chasing it and what have you. And he thinks that's God that's doing that.
No, the devil doing it.
The devil.
So, yeah, so it's
Maybe it is.
yeah, I'm
How would you know?
exactly.
And
I don't personally believe that, but I can't
no, I
see
don't.
I
I
can't
don't.
see
But
it.
I would never say never
Yeah,
be, be,
exactly.
because there's the word demon has been thrown about a lot recently. You know,
Right.
you heard Llewellyn. I'm just gonna stop saying that man's name. If I ever get him on the
Lou
show,
Elizondo.
I'm just gonna call him
Lou.
Lou. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, um, But he used the word demon.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few of us that have used the word demon.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I had Tyler on a week or so ago,
Mm-hmm.
I asked him about that. I asked him about the demon, and he says, "Well, what is a demon?" You
Right.
know, I mean, I don't know if you. I've spoken about this umpteen times. People probably sick of me talking about Crowley, but I mean, do you know who Alistair Crowley is?
Yeah, and I've actually seen you mention like the pictures that he had in his book and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like that.
mean, and he was, he was doing weird shit,
Mm-hmm.
but he drew a very interesting picture of an alien grey
Right.
when he was doing that weird shit. So I might even have it on here for anybody who's not got bored of it yet. No, I've deleted it. I probably made a point to say, no, I didn't delete it. There you go. It's still there. There's the one. So
Definitely the
yeah,
same
it,
stuff.
it is. It is. I mean, what if the demons? They could be demons. I
Could be anything. And
demons in a vehicle with big lights. Like, woo, we're here.
right.
You know, it's,
I mean,
it makes zero sense, does it? It makes absolutely zero sense that if the demons, why would they have what we see
a
as
ship.
a ship? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't that's not the avenue I believe, but like I've seen a UFO close. That's all I can tell you. I mean, I would be lying if I tried to place any additional information to it. Like that's certainly an alien ship flown by alien. I didn't see any of that. I have no proof about that. So I'm open to whatever, which is why I'll watch interviews or watch documentaries and stuff. Is like maybe somebody has a perspective that's going to snap with me and be like, aha, that's exactly, what my experience was and my belief. I mean, I lean towards things, but I have no way of knowing unless the occupants of that thing that we saw came back today and landed and were like, "Hey, you saw us in the 70s. Hi." I have no idea. I no idea who was flying it. Could have been the government, could have been aliens, could have been anything.
What color were these lights?
They were white, like a whitish yellow. Um just bright plain lights, not colored.
So did it look like an average light, or would
Yeah,
you say?
average but bright, like the ones in that Close Encounters picture example. They were bright, really bright, but not. I wouldn't say they were otherworldly. They were just really bright lights.
That you could look at them?
Yeah, you could look at them. It wouldn't hurt your eyes or anything like that.
I just I have a problem with alien ships
With
and
lights,
lights. I
yeah,
always wonder why would they want to turn the lights on, you know?
yeah. No, and I mean that's a valid question, and that's even something. Even having seen it and talking to ourselves, about it, it's the same thing. Because you'll get some people that say, "Hey, I saw a UFO. The whole ship was glowing. Not that it had lights on it, but it was
Yeah.
glowing." But then you'll have other people that are like for instance, trying videos of triangle UFOs or whatever. They have lights on them. So are the ones with lights ours? I don't know. Very well could be. I can just tell you, it was definitely a flying saucer shape. Definitely had the lights. Definitely was quiet. Had no motor noises or anything. Definitely hovered super slow. Who was flying it? Who built it? I can't tell you that. That part I can't answer.
Saying that though, if you're talking at this level, did you
Mhm.
say that the lampposts with the lights weren't there at the time?
The only one that was probably there is the same one that's there now, which you see on the
Right.
left. That's it. There's I think there's one further down the road, but in the 70s when we lived there, I don't remember any lights on that street except for that one that's on the corner there.
Okay, so maybe because in your mind that's quite accurate to how high it was on the road.
Right. General
M-
position, height, and like how far away it was from us.
Maybe there's something wrong with it. Maybe there was something wrong with it, and if you're that low, it uh, maybe they had to switch the lights on.
Yeah, maybe.
See where
Or
to I was the lights lighting up anything else? Was it lighting up the road below it or the trees?
Not that I remember. And it was kind of like I said, I don't think the trees were quite that big back then. Some of them may have been because I none of the trees like obscured the view of it when we saw it. So they may just not have been grown out as far as they are onto the road now, maybe. Um, but it didn't. There wasn't like light coming from it on the road or on the sides or anything like that that I noticed. But at the same time, I was just staring at it, not like, "Hey, how is it affecting the environment?" And I was a little kid too, so, but I didn't notice it lighting up anything. It was almost like the lights were shooting outward, um, like around it.
Yeah, I mean, when you said about the helicopters chasing it,
Mhm.
was it you say would it 4 helicopters?
4 helicopters, yeah.
And it disappeared. Was it
Yeah,
like the lights went out, or was it like the lights moved away?
moved away, like it had decided that, "Oh, something's coming," vroom, and just
But it
took
left the
off.
lights still on.
They were on until you couldn't see him anymore. So it maybe they turned them off and it went, but all as we could see, because at that point it was out by the mountains, so it was pretty small in the distance. So seeing the different lights may not have even been. It may have appeared as just one light at that point, or just blended together. But it was far enough away to where you could still see it, but you could definitely not see the details on it anymore. It was out in the distance. It was out by those mountains.
For anybody just popping in now, this is an artist. This is Bill's impression of the size of the craft. This is not. We are not showing a real picture
Yeah,
of
definitely not.
the craft.
Yeah, yeah. I just
That
found a
I
generic
I would
UFO picture.
love one like that, but then I'd be like, "And you didn't film it?"
Right. And again, this was the 70s. My mom, like I said, she's a single mom with raising 4 kids. It's not like even if we had thought to grab the camera, it's not like we had the camera at the ready back then. Like if we had film in the camera, it was because it was Christmas and we were taking Christmas pictures or something like that. We didn't just have a camera. It's not like today where everybody's got a camera on their phone. We were broke and having a camera at the ready was not
Oh,
something that
mate,
we did.
in the 90s, at my mum and dad's,
Yeah.
the if we'd seen a UFO and I'd have gone, "Oh, come on, let's grab a camera," there wouldn't have been
Right.
one.
Right. And like I said, my brother went out the door so fast that the only thought was follow him, go see what he's seeing. So there was no time to think about anything like that.
What I wanna do, Bill, I mean, I know you said you're probably not gonna go on any other shows,
Hmm.
but at some point, I would like to get some of the people who I think have been some of the top stories of Alien Addict,
Hmm.
and because I believe this platform can probably handle about, I think it's 10 at once.
Okay.
So I don't it might be in a year's time or something like that, but would you be up for doing something like that?
Yeah, I'd come back on your show for sure.
That'd be great, mate. That'd be great. Um, but yeah, I mean, if anybody in the chat that is into kind of finding locations and what have you, if they could look it up, pass the information to me, and I will pass it on to you, Bill, because I know you do want to know
Yeah.
if there is any reports around that sort of time. What did you say about 75, 76?
No, 78, 79, somewhere
78,
around there.
79.
Yeah.
I wasn't even born then. I was born in 1980 in December, the same time as the Rendlesham Forest incident.
Coincidence?
It's no, mate. It's not. They dropped me off.
Yeah.
But yeah, wouldn't it be something though if we got a report that came from the
Sure.
same neighborhood? Because surely there must have been other neighbors that saw
No,
this thing.
yeah, they definitely, like I'd mentioned, when we came back and my mom and I in the car came back, there were neighbors outside their houses looking too. So at that point, there was enough activity, I guess, to where other people came outside. Maybe they heard my brother shouting and my mom shouting to him or something, to where they came out too and were looking. So there were other people that saw it. We never we never got interviewed by like a newspaper or the TV or anything, so I don't think anybody reported it to any kind of like media. So I don't know if there would be any articles or anything about it. We didn't get the paper, so we didn't. It's not like we were reading and checking on it, and yeah, and we didn't report it ourselves, except for my sister's 911 call. So, and my mom driving to the police station and telling them, but there was never any follow up from the police or the military with us, or I don't know about my neighbors, but definitely not with us on any of it. So it was like it happened, everybody forgot about it.
If you had to say what that thing was now,
Mhm.
would you say that was alien tech?
I have no idea. I don't know who was in it. It
No,
definitely,
you must have a thought in your head to say, "Yeah, that's that. That what aliens." Or how?
I definitely, yeah, I would say it, yeah. It definitely wasn't anything of the day or even that we see now. Like there's no newsreel showing silent craft that are the military is saying it's
Yeah,
theirs. So it's the only thing I can lean towards is, yeah, it was either probably something we constructed based off of it or it was alien, but I can't tell you which it was.
and finally, when you mentioned it started to move faster,
Mhm.
when it started to move off, what sort? It's probably hard for you to explain because it
Mhm.
was quite far away. But how much faster?
Well, when we were driving down the highway, trying to keep parallel with it as it was leaving town, I wouldn't say it was going like ridiculous speeds, but it was going faster than it was going when it was just going down the street. So it had picked up velocity, but not like beyond what you would imagine seeing like a helicopter or an airplane flying at. It
Mhm.
was just, it definitely sped faster than it had been doing when it was going over town. So, but not like zip to the mountains. It was just gradually going out there, but faster than it had been doing.
And no missing time or anything like that for you guys.
Yeah, nothing like that. We've never suspected that we, like, had an abduction or anything like that, 'cause, we can all remember the sequences of events leading up to it, happening, and then after. Because even after the helicopters flew out that direction and the UFO left, us and our neighbors still sat out there for a little bit and were like, "How was that?" Kinda talking about it a little bit, so I couldn't tell you the specifics of the conversation because I wasn't really paying attention and I wasn't involved in it. I was a little kid standing among adults. So,
Well, you were 7 or 8, weren't you? So,
yeah.
it's I mean,
Anything I had
th
to say was
that
probably a
sort of
pat on
age,
the head.
you can remember dramatic things that happened at that sort of age, but you
Yeah.
can't details,
Yeah. Like I told my wife, it's like there's things from my childhood that I can remember distinctly. Like I got bit by a snake on my nose as a kid too, and I can still visualize it in my head of the visual of that snake jumping and biting me on the nose. It's burned into my psyche, but I couldn't tell you what day it
Jesus.
happened, how old I was, anything like that, but I can
Was
definitely
it
tell you it was frightening.
was it poisonous?
No, thankfully it was not. It was a non-venomous snake, but yeah.
Was it like a friend's snake, or was it?
It was my brother's snake that had got out of its cage. We were trying to get it, catch it to put it back in, and when it was grabbed by the tail because it was getting away and that was the only part that could be grabbed. It got mad, instantly turned and struck me. I wasn't even the one grabbing it, but I was the one who got
Jesus,
bit. Yeah,
don't piss off a snake.
yeah, for sure. But I mean that I can remember that. I can remember the details of that, but I couldn't tell you anything else. Couldn't tell you what
No,
day. Like
well,
I said.
Bill, mate, I wanna thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, my
Much
pleasure.
appreciated, much appreciated. And I'm gonna, for anybody in the chat, I am gonna, or anybody who's watching this afterwards, because I haven't put my email in the description for some. I always forget to do it, but this is my email. If you've got a story, email me. Just don't email me at a picture of a balloon and say you want to come on the channel and talk about this balloon that you saw, or even I sorry I get this all the time. I saw a UFO the other day. I would like to come on and discuss it. What happened? Oh, I saw this light and then it moved and then it went behind the tree. What can I do with that? What can I do with that? Welcome to the show, ladies and gents. We have a great guest for you tonight. He saw a UFO that went behind a tree. Good night, God bless. No, I don't want that. I don't want that because I think every man and his dog has actually seen a
Something.
UFO of an unidentified
Hmm.
flying object. Because that's what it is. And I think what you saw was a flying saucer. You know,
Yeah.
the real deal. It'd just be
Yeah.
so interesting to get a report from that. If we can get a
Yeah,
report
for
from that,
sure.
that'd be.
And I've
And if
Googled before Wichita City 1970s UFO just to see if I got any hits, and yeah, nothing. So it's like,
and the street and everything, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it would have had to have probably been reported in the news for it to probably show up on some sort of Google search. I would imagine if you were kind of get any kind of confirmation, you would have to do a FOIA and know specifically what you were FOIA requesting to try and pull anything off of it. And even then, would it give specifics enough to say it was a UFO, or would it just say helicopter scrambled such and such date, that
Yeah,
kind of thing?
I think um, it's a great story, mate.
Thank you, guys.
And the it's going to surprise you, but the thing that gets me, um, my hairs on my arms a little bit is it's the shadow. It's the shadow people
Oh,
because
it's the scarier of the two for sure. Yeah.
every you know everybody talks about these
Hmm.
shadow people and the children talk about it. My little boy talks about seeing shadows in the room, and I'm like,
Right.
it's just your dressing gown.
Right. Right.
And deep down in the back of my head, I'm thinking, or is it? Am I being a bad dad? What
No,
if
for
there
sure.
are like
For sure.
these little weird shadow weirdos lurking? I mean, maybe they're not even bad.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just interested.
And it just, since it's so unknown, it just feels uncomfortable. So you instantly get a bad feeling from it. But yeah, could potentially be them just trying to communicate, and they're like, "Sorry, I appear scary. This is all I got to work with." But who knows? What the
Anti-media zombie says you won't find it. It's in a box in storage or it's being destroyed. We said
probably.
this. We said this.
Yeah, and like I said, if they had it, would you be able to keyword it to where you would pull the correct thing? I don't know. It would take like a John Greenwald, or like from the Black Vault, that actually knows what he's doing to probably get anything off of it because I wouldn't even know the first thing to ask for. Uh,
You still there, mate?
I would be blown away. Yeah, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yeah, you just broke up a little bit there. It's fine.
Oh, sorry.
But no, we've come to the end of the show anyway, mate. So I'm
Okay.
gonna say good night, God bless. Mind the bugs don't bite, people. Check out the links below. I if you want to support the channel further, got a Patreon. It is below. We've got a nice little group there of people. You know, it's always nice to have the support. If you want, if you're feeling cold, or even if you're not feeling cold and you just want to go out and sunbathe in a t-shirt, there you go. But you can, if you want to warm your cockles, there is a hoodie there. There's all sorts. You can even make your iPhone warm with a skin. I've got 3 little designs and some beverages as well. There is no liquid in them. You have to put your own liquid in them. But yeah, but they are my own designs, people. But Bill, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Guys,
My
check out
pleasure.
my email if you have a great story. It isn't in the description. I may remember to put it in. If not, it's right there, 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 there. Yeah, and yeah, I will. I'm going to be live this Thursday. Going to be doing a show with a panel. I don't know what the show's going to be about yet. I'll find some bullshit, and it'll be good bullshit though, people. It'll be good. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night. God bless. Mind the bugs don't bite. End the show.